All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Dudley, Massachusetts Economic Development Committee. Today is Tuesday, July 16th. It is now 10:31. We're going to start, I have a call to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. And, okay, and I would like to just to note that this meeting is being recorded. First up, Kelsey, thank you very much. Kelsey just handed the meeting minutes for the last meeting. If you want to take just a quick moment to take a look at it.
I actually think they were sent out, right? Didn't
Oh, they
Bill
were.
resend them?
I intended to, I did not.
Oh, I thought Bill sent an amendment to the agenda with them, but
Yeah, we could just take a couple of moments to take a look, and then I'd entertain a motion to approve. And just to note that these were the meeting minutes for the meeting held Tuesday, May the 21st. Is that correct?
So we have minutes from the 21st. We didn't have enough people that were
Here at
in
the last-
attendance at that meeting
Okay.
to approve them.
Okay.
We might be in the same situation.
I think so.
For the 25th.
I think we are. I wasn't at that one, and then
And then
Mark wasn't at this last one.
yeah, but I mean, so Robert's rules are that is, you don't have to attend the meeting in order to approve them as long as you've read them.
Okay, all right.
That being said,
Yeah.
can I entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 5/21/24?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, well, let me just start by saying that today we were on the agenda, there was going to be a presentation from Kerry Salwa and Joe Zabowski from CMRPC on the findings of the site-specific economic development plan. Kerry had emailed me on Friday. I must have missed the email, but she said that they would not be finishing their project, or they will have the project completed by July the 31st, and she was asking or requesting that they would be put on the August agenda, which I responded to her that would be no problem. So that will not be presented today. Next up is a presentation from our friends, Jane Wyrick and Victoria Chavez, on the final report for the Gateway Plan. So welcome, and the floor is yours.
So, excuse me,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chair.
Yep.
So we approved one set of minutes. Are we gonna do both of them?
Yeah, I was just thinking
Oh,
we
I'm
have to do
that.
sorry.
both.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just approved the May 21st minutes, right?
Yes,
And we are reading the June 25th minutes. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for June 25th, 2024.
second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. All righty. Sorry about that. I didn't even realize that this was the meetings for June 25th as well, so thank you very much. Jane and Victoria,
Good morning.
welcome back.
Thank you for having us again. Hopefully you've had a chance to look over the final report. I think there were just a few sections that we were gonna highlight unless you had specific questions about other sections. No microphone here. Sorry. Thank you
Great,
so
thank
much.
you.
As I was saying, thank you for having us. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the report. We were going to profile a few sections that look at the phasing and cost estimates, unless you had questions about any other specific sections of the report. And with that, I think I'll let Victoria go over those sections.
Yeah. Alrighty, so in this report in total, as we discussed before, we talk about the project introduction, history and location, survey results, vision and goals, creating image and identity, placemaking, zoning considerations, and making it happen, and then conclusions and recommendations. So in the chapter 8, making it happen, it kind of pulls together everything that has been throughout in the report, what we've been working on, and we created tables on phasing, on funding sources, and then in the conclusion recommendations, we just break down those recommendations as well. So we'll scroll down to those. All right. Another breakdown I just want to point out as well is the Sign and Facade Rapid Recovery Program Toolkit. This is something that we found in the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. This is something that could really be beneficial for the facade improvement program that we've been recommending. There's different steps on how to get it done, bringing others into the conversation, developing and design guidelines, develop criteria for participation, authorizing the program and approval in town meetings. And then my computer froze, so give it a second. With these big old documents, it freezes.
And if I can interject a little bit about this topic, when we had gone over this a couple months ago, there was a concern about the amount of labor that would go into trying to manage a program like this, as well as finding the funding for it. So we've identified several possible funding sources. Given the relatively small area of West Main that we're focusing on, we don't think that it's a program that would have to run continuously, but perhaps maybe a 2 or 3 year program. Carrie, who you know from CMRPC, has worked with the community. Some of the funding for the program actually paid for her to manage it for 2 years. So it was like a part-time position for her. It was part of her regular job, but the funding from the grant paid for that. So it's possible that CMRPC can help you run the program, but we recommend limited term. And I think, you know, if anyone's going to take advantage of the loans or grants that are obtained, it will probably be done within the first couple of years.
Great.
And I'll let Victoria continue.
Perfect. All right.
I also provided to Bill some sample village center zoning documents, which is something we can pursue with the planning board. Currently, there are several buildings in the Gateway area that are pre-existing non-conforming, such as where Woofie's is. There's a question, without having a survey, of whether those buildings encroach into the right-of-way or whether they're right on it, which the current zoning has minimum lot size, minimum frontage, front yard setback. They definitely don't meet it. So if we can implement more of a village center overlay where you have more of like the buildings closer to the street, keep it more walkable, more densely and compact, you know, should anybody want to redevelop, then that zoning would be in place.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we provided in the report is the cost estimate. Jane and worked with a few other CMRPC staff, and then also reached out to a few contractors on how much the pricing would be. You can see that she has separated into quantity, price per unit, and then the subtotal. At the bottom on this side right here, you can see the total of everything together. And then she's also broken it down to each recommendation that we have provided, from the image and identity to the streetscape, miscellaneous improvements, facade, trail, and tactical urbanism. This is a really good way for you guys to look at and be like, okay, this is something we can tackle now, or this is how much funding we're gonna need for this. All right, let's focus on where we can get this.
And if I could point out that the estimate for curbs and sidewalks is only for the section where we don't have any over by Napa and there's a service station there.
Right.
It does not redo all of the sidewalks. So that would be something separate if you wanted to go that route.
Gotcha.
And then right here, we have the potential funding sources. We have some notes that go with these, but most of them we would just have to look up and see if we apply for it or when they are due for us to go into it. We try to break it down as simple as possible, so we have about streetscape improvements, trail connections, some public art, and then even some sources for facade improvement programs. And then we go into the phasing strategies right here. With these, again, breaking down on being what type of task it is, the time frame that is expected, the cost estimate, which we will go off of the cost estimate sheet that we provided as well, and then a little bit of a description of it. We got phase 1, which should be mostly quick and low cost fixes. Next, in phase 2 should be planning and coordination. Phase 3 is medium term enhancements, and then phase term are those long-term enhancements. So as you can see, mostly in the quick and low cost fixes, in the report we talk a lot about tactical urbanism, and these are something that, so people can see right away, this is something that we can implement really fast, they're cheaper, and it just gets people excited for the area. We also talk about the gateway sign design. I feel like this is another thing that we should be focusing on, because that's the whole point. We want people to come into Dudley and know that they are here. So this is, as a recommendation, I do think that we need to focus at least on these two right off the bat. Once we move forward, we can start looking on some funding sources to really get the production of these going. And then in the conclusion and recommendations, we just break down what the recommendations were within the plan. So you have the writing of it. Now let's just go to it and see right off the bat. So we talk about the logo and marketing, the gateway sign, wayfinding, tactical urbanism. We got streetscape design, trail connections, facade improvements, and public art. And then with zoning recommendations, it really is a big breakdown of what we need to do to really create long-term and lasting changes for the gateway area. And as you can see here, just how Jane was brought up about the village center overlay district, the minimizing of front setbacks, we got on-street parking, and you can tell too, Jane has created conceptual site designs on how the parking should be laid out and how much parking would be. Jane worked with one of our engineers to see what is possible. Jane, how many parking spots was there?
I believe we identified approximately 18 potential parking spots. Bill had asked me to prepare a street profile, which is kind of like taking a cross-section of Main Street and looking at it to see where the sidewalks would be, where the parking would be, the landscaping, the travel lanes. There's actually enough room if you wanted to widen sidewalks to 6 or 8 feet, but that would be an additional cost to redo it all. But with 2 13-foot drive lanes, there's still parking for 18 cars. And before scaling it all out, we were only showing like 6 to 8 or so. But that can be done just with striping.
Just with striping. Wow.
Yeah, with that said though, and with the breakdowns and recommendations and funding sources, is there any questions that you guys have or anything that caught your eye that you want us to go more into detail with?
Nothing here, looks great.
I was gonna say, just very, very detailed. I know I just thank you so much. I mean, the amount of time, that you put into it, I didn't have anything else to really add unless anybody else on the committee.
Very actionable.
Yeah, very much so. And Victoria, you had mentioned too, just like in regards to just starting off, I think we talked about it a couple of times with some small, like cost-effective ways to, the beautification, the stuff like that, just to at least get people knowing that we're something's happening, and then taking a look at all the funding, because we don't, as I think we may have communicated, as long as I've been on the committee, we've never had a budget or any type of funding, so to be able to have some assistance in locating that is a big help, because that's all I have now.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How have other communities created a momentum to get people on board? In other words, should this be something, did they bring them to group meetings of planning boards and selectmen? Or how do you get a momentum going for people to be a little more enthused? We're just one board, we've got a great plan, but whenever you want to try and develop something, you have to sell the concept. And in this town, if you don't explain it, you just throw it on a ballot and you think it's gonna work, it's not gonna happen. What have you seen for success that other towns have done to make this come about?
I think the tactical urbanism is really important so that you can get things going really soon and fairly inexpensively. I think once people start seeing some positive change, you're gonna get people on board. One of the possible recommendations included in the report is to consider starting a Main Street program. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it looks at economic development, historic preservation, and it's got 4 different parts to their approach. Some of it is marketing, so they usually do have a project manager, and it's part of the funding for the program. But it has a proven system for trying to help communities along. So.
But Joanne, you bring up, like, as a committee, you know, we do, you're right, we have this really nice detailed plan, you know. Now, what would be our next step? Just, you know, for us to present it to, you know, the Board of Selectmen, you know, other, you know, just to show them that, you know, hey, listen, there was a lot of work that was, you know, you all did the heavy lifting, but over the last number of months that, you know, this is what, you know, we're working on, and we would just want to get your feedback. I mean, I know you've been on different boards and things like that, and I think you too, Mark. What would your advice be for this committee?
Yeah, I mean, so now we have Deb, who we all met, Deb LaPlaca, who's handling all of our social media. I think that that's probably the best way for us to blast this out. We don't have a budget for advertising or anything like that to get it out that way, but I mean, internally, yeah, I think that we can send emails and get the select board, you know, on board with what the plan is and where we're at. I'm not sure if they have the opportunity to read our minutes or not, but obviously all of this stuff has been, through its development, been recorded in minutes, and you can only hope that, you know, since we tree into them, that they would be reading that and be knowledgeable about where we're at. But it probably wouldn't hurt to send something. But I think Deb would probably be able to help us mostly with getting it on our website, getting it out there, social media, and people are just gonna see it anyway, right? So as we start to make some of these changes, they're gonna be able to see some of those things as well. But yeah, I just think it needs to be blasted that way, and that's the success I've had in the past is through social media. So.
I agree. And if we look at how our survey went, we had like 300 and something responses. So people are obviously excited for it right now. So if we do something with tactical urbanism and we want to put flowers out there, I think even something cool like posting different flowers, you're like, what flowers would you like to see in here? So you can have the public's interaction with it, and then even a link to the plan on there, so they're constantly seeing it, and then they're seeing the work fast out there. They're like, oh, my voice does matter. That's something.
Yeah, or if someone, you know, drives by or walks by, you know, if we had some like QR code or something that they could scan with their phone, and it would bring them to the website that says, oh yeah, this is a result of, you know, this, or bring them to the Facebook page, or, you know, whatever it might be, that can explain it without them having to say, oh, you know, pick up the phone and call, or, oh yeah, I saw something about this. So it just could be, I think it should be an active, you know, part of each of these phases. It shouldn't just be like, hey, here's what we're doing, these are the 5 phases, and then never talk about it again. It's got to be something that, you know, we keep pushing, and I think Deb can definitely help us with that. I refer to her as Deb. I'm sure she has a title. It's communications, you know, town communications or whatever. But our town communications coordinator would definitely be able to help us with that, I would think.
I agree completely, and I credit social media for such a high response on the survey.
Yeah.
People, a lot of them, for the most part, seem very interested,
Yeah.
you know, in providing their opinions and seeing some change come about. So I think they're gonna wanna see the survey results and the plan itself. So the survey is in the appendix of this document, so
Yeah.
hopefully that will be a bit to get people interested in seeing it move forward. And I think part of the other thing is finding the funding to make it happen,
Mhm.
which we're always keeping our eyes open for that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that could be said on, you know, on this Facebook blast is, you know, hey, these are all the things that, you know, the town has been working on, and obviously everyone knows that budgets are tight. You know, is there anyone out there that would be interested in supporting this endeavor? These are the things that we're able to do with grants that we received, but these are the things that, you know, should be done that we don't have the funding for. You know, is there anyone out there that's interested in supporting us on this? You know, you know, love Facebook or hate it, or, you know, whatever other social media, it's the best bang for the buck you get out there. It's essentially free. And there's a lot of people that aren't on it, so I think that we need to be cognizant of that and have other pieces. Like I said, that QR, it's not really difficult to make one of those. You can laminate it and have it on the pot or whatever, the bench or wherever we want someone to recognize. Take a snapshot of it, and it brings us to our website, which is, you know, our own, and doesn't cost us anything for someone to just link there. So those are my recommendations. The one question I did have is, so these phases, those phases are based, the time frame between each of the phases is based on funding, I would imagine.
Exactly, yeah. So we try to just break it down as easy as possible, what are the fast things we can get, and then into more of the planning stuff. Formal planning, wayfinding. I feel like with wayfinding, we need to see what are certain locations that we want to point out, how many signs, which we recommend around 2 or 3 in the gateway area, but if you wanted to expand further out from there, that is completely fine. But that's just something that's gonna take a little bit of a while for that. And with the trail connections as well, we know that's in the works, but it's just not something that could be happen immediately as well right now. So that's something we can continue to work with and creating on those networks. And then of course, everything else, it just builds from there. And then also we focus on the cost of a lot of things as well. So if it's on the higher side, that should be maybe visioned a little bit later so we can figure out how we can get the funding for it. If it's something we're able to get the funding for, let's say there is a long term, then, and we can see it in the next like 2 years actually, it's more medium term, we say go ahead, go for it. But realistically, this is just easier, so we're not seeing it all at once or seems overwhelmed.
Well, we've received some funding, right? So how far along the phase process can we get with the funding we have?
For this project, this is it. There's additional grant that was just recently submitted for the park by Town Hall.
Okay,
And we would need to pursue some other grants for
Okay.
downtown. I know that, well, not downtown, but the Gateway area. Our CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Planners are evaluating the Jericho and Marino neighborhoods to see if they qualify for additional funding through CDBG. And so that might be a source for doing some of the work there. There's other state programs, federal programs, nonprofits like arts organizations.
so all of the funding money that we received basically got us to this point?
Correct.
All right. Yeah, there are a lot of people who have been in this town for a very long time that have resources, and I think that they, if this was presented properly, would embrace this. And so we need to be creative about how we approach them, and maybe, you know, our next meeting or the next time we discuss this would be that we invite the town communications person to the meeting and say, hey, how would you recommend appealing to these people who we identify as, you know, forever Dudley that want to see this type of thing happen in Dudley. I know there's many, many people. I mean, we're in awe here, sitting here saying, wow, I never thought that we would even get to this point, right? So there's so many people that don't even know we're at this point. So, you know, how do we best communicate that? And I think you would really be surprised with the support that we would get.
Outside of any potential, like, grants or anything that we could
Correct.
get.
Right. Yeah, private funding.
Private funding.
Yeah, charitable funding.
Charitable funding. Because, I mean, because I know Bill Scanlon, you know, he's already missed, I can tell just by his not being here, his presence is felt, or his absence is felt. But just, you know, who else can help us with that? I think you had mentioned that if we do get like a grant, like if we do get a grant, we can incorporate into that funding somebody to help with the, manage it. But it's getting the grant, because I know I'm not a grant writer, you know, and I don't know to the extent of anybody else on the committee, you know, would that be somebody who is gonna be taking over as the new town planner? But that would be my, you know, because, you know, how can we get more help, you know, to do that? Because I think Bill did do grant writing, or he at least knew where to find some of the funding, which that would be a big concern, you know, because I agree with Mark. I agree that there's a lot of folks, whether they be just, you know, private individuals, businesses, you know, that would be willing to, through charitable contributions or anything like that, if it is communicated correctly, which I'm sure, like, and I agree, I think we should invite the communications director, Deb LaPlaca, to our next meeting. But I don't know, I mean, that's a concern of mine, would be like, who is gonna carry the torch in regards to finding the funding? I don't know if anybody has any suggestions on the committee?
I suppose that the new planner is that's gonna be one of the prerequisites of that person, is to have experience in writing grants. So I think that, I don't think that will end. I think we'll find another bill, but we just have to wait, you know, to see what happens there. But in the meantime, there's a lot of things that we can do, which I had just identified. And so I suggest we not just wait for things to happen, that we continue to be proactive, and yeah, let's, you know, in our next meeting, let's work with the resources that we have here and see. I think Deb would be able to help us with, you know, with guiding us in, you know, different ways to help us get funding. But in the same token, I think that we do need to blast this through the town hall and, you know, all of the committees, and starting with the select people, and hopefully they can embrace it, and maybe the town administrator has some ideas. The more eyes we have on it, the, you know, the better opportunity that we have. So we just need to identify, you know, who's gonna share it, who's gonna prepare the email and send it off. But we need to assign that, or yeah, it might not happen.
I agree.
With master plans, there's typically an implementation committee to implement the strategies that come out of the master plan. So I don't know if the town might want to, I mean, the committee might be like one person from this committee, one from the planning board, one from different departments, so that everybody's putting their input into what it will take to get that done. Maybe the highway department, seeing the street improvements would involve them.
Right.
I think it's gonna go back and start with what we get for a source for a planner, how many hours. You need a professional, let's face it. The committee days are gone, people's time, volunteerism is on the decline, not on the increase on doing that with people's time. I think that Mark has hit it as far as resources to get the information out there, whether it's through newspapers, social media, the whole 9 yards. I think you need to do those things. That's definitely where we start, and starting through committees, but we need to have that professional who that is their job, not ours. I'm not interested in trying to turn into a planner. I mean, trying to find benefactors is one thing, to make contributions, that's a little different if you promote it. then maybe even places like your historical group still shouldn't be overlooked, that that's sitting in an area that's right under their purview all the time, that they're concerned about. I think it's about trying to implement those forces and using the professionals, and Deb would be one of our professionals that we could do. I don't think to go back and try and do committees is a good move. I think that's that's gonna immobilize you more. We've done 10 years worth of committees to get to this point. And it took a
Yeah, I mean,
professional to get it done.
Look what you guys have done. I mean, this would have taken us 10 years to get to where you are with trying to get a committee together and try, okay, this is what our plan is, you know, the same thing that you guys set out to do. You know, I mean, obviously, we were blessed to be able to get the grant, but had we not gotten that, we could all meet every single Tuesday for the next 5 years, and we could never have gotten to this place, you know? So, to Joanne's point, I think that, you know, we do need to rely on, you know, the resources that we have. Yeah, just begin to share it and talk about it, and, yeah, we have to hope that the town will be expedient in putting someone in Bill's place so that we can, you know, move, you know, continue to move this forward. There may be a short delay, but there are some things we can do in the meantime. You know, let's get the news out to the selectmen, let's get it to each of the departments, let's let everyone know what we're doing. Let's schedule our next meeting, let's have Deb come in, share with her what our interest is, and she should be on that same email. So she may jump in and have some information for us prior to our next meeting, but hey, how do we take this thing to the next step now?
I don't think even though this project on our end is more at the end, we're not done with Dudley at all. Like, we want Dudley to grow, we want the goals to be accomplished. So if there's any questions or anything like that, come to us. If there's grant opportunities, we can look in and see how we can help out. Like, we've helped out writing out different grants based off certain funds that we have as well. Like, there's more options than just also relying on your town planner as well. And or if you're confused about a certain grant or you don't even know where to start, we can look in
Right.
and build off on that. So we're not just at a standstill either, because
Yeah.
we don't want that for you guys.
Yeah, it's all about the pipeline, right? So, you know, we don't say we need money now, so let's look for grants. We need to be applying for every single grant that there is, and I know we've been doing that. So there are some grants in the pipeline that we're waiting for decisions on, I suspect. And then there are others that are available today, tomorrow, next week, next month. So, I don't know how the financial metrics work with the town and CMRPC, but if there are resources and you guys have the ability to be on the lookout for any grants, we certainly hope that you will do that, or at least bring it to our attention if it's something that, you know, you can't get involved in or whatever. But do we have any more financial resources with, I know the grant that we got is separate, you know, covers what you are doing or what you have done, but do we have hours, Bill, that we can have you guys do other things as well?
So each year, starting on July 1st with the new fiscal year, Dudley gets 12 hours of planning assistance from us.
Dudley.
So, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So last year, they were used to help finish the open space and recreation plan. So right now, you have another 12 hours, and if delegates from the town go to our quarterly meetings, they can earn additional hours, I think up to a max of 24. We just went through a big grant writing season. There'll be some more grants, smaller grants come January, but there are different sources, and we do definitely keep our eyes open,
Okay.
such as going for the community project funding for the potential Brandon Road Bridge, applying for the park near Town Hall. So we're definitely keeping our eyes open.
That 12 hours that gets allotted to the town of Dudley, who makes the decision as to where that's allocated? The select board? Oh, the planning board, okay. Okay. Understood. Well, Mark, Joanne,
Well, I can say I'm gonna be an optimist on some things. If we can get all of these people who come out to the Strawberry Festival and to an Apple Festival, there are people in town who care about the town and how the town looks, how the town services and things that are here. There is a sense of community. I think we just need to put the energy into positive, not dollars, but in attitude of how this affects our community. We all say we're happy to come home to where we live. I think that spirit is out there, and I think we have to foster that spirit along with the cost of getting it done. I think that's a key for us, for people to feel this is their community, they want to make it better, this is a good opportunity, and they'll participate in doing it. Think about, if you go to the Strawberry Festival, think of how many people show up in one day. It's pretty amazing on doing it, and I'm sure that's out there.
I agree. And I really appreciate the input from the committee. I know Mark and Joanne, you have a number of years of experience with the town, and I learn a lot by listening, and I think your suggestions are right on. And I think we should do everything that you suggested because, in respect of all the work that was already done, and I agree, I think it would have taken us years to get to where, you've got to us right now. So we have some next steps, and I think with a positive attitude and, in the meantime, there's things that we can do before we get some sort of grant funding. And we use those resources to the best, that we can. So thank you again. Are there any more comments from anybody else on the committee regarding the plan?
No, I'd just like to summarize what we talked about. So before we get off this topic, we need to decide who's going to send the email to all the different departments, including Deb LaPlaca. And then I think we need to identify when our next meeting's going to be and invite certain people to that meeting. I just think those two things need to be identified before we get off this subject.
Would anybody like to volunteer to do it, or I can do it as the chairman?
Now, I have a question. Are the selectmen providing us with any opportunity to use their person who does their clerical work, where we have no one per se, no planner as yet? Are they giving us any resource that they can?
So that can be part of that same email, say, hey, so normally this note would be coming from our planner, who we don't have, our town planner, who we don't have anymore. So here's what we're asking for, and oh, by the way, as a last, could we utilize your clerk for, some of these things until we get a planner?
Yeah.
I think we have to ask. The worst they can say is no, and we do come under them. We were all appointed by them. As much as we think we're independent,
Yeah.
we still are answerable to them, and I think they need to answer to us a little bit
Right.
on our doing our part to give us some support.
Yeah.
That's paid staff person who can get that done, where the rest of us are running around volunteering, and we get tied up in our own work, that's not our job.
Yeah. I'm sure they will. I think they're appreciative of, what we've done and where we're going. So I would think that they would want to support this momentum, but.
Okay. I'd be more than happy to send it if somebody could maybe just, and this could be after the meeting, just kind of, I could talk with, just to make sure I cover all the, correct points, and just get the right language, and I could send it over. That's not a problem. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I was wondering if one of you two might be able to, having experience, maybe architect the letter, the verbiage, about what it should say, that it would include all the things that you guys have done since you're so close to it. And then maybe forward that to the chairman, and then we can kind of critique it and see if it's something that, when we can, move back and forth a little bit. But I suspect that you guys would hit every point, on the first time, as opposed to, us trying to parse a lot of this together. That would be excellent.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And then, Mark, you also mentioned the next meeting.
Yeah.
So for August, we could take a look to see. I know Kerry Salwa had mentioned that she wasn't able to present, and she would like to be on the agenda for the next meeting. So if we would, I'm pretty
Yeah.
open for August, so I know we meet on Tuesdays. Would we be looking at like the 20th of August?
So the next one that's normally scheduled is the 20th.
Mhm.
I've just plugged them into the, what is it, the third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
So, that would work for me.
I'm good with that.
You good with that?
Yeah.
As well.
Awesome. All right, so why don't we, Ricky, how about yourself?
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that.
Perfect. All right, so why don't we do the next meeting then would be scheduled for Tuesday, August 20th, 2024.
Okay, and then part of the email that we're gonna receive from, these kind ladies will, include, Deb on that and invite her to that meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you want
And I
us to
think-
attend that meeting?
We'd love it.
We'd love
Will
it
be
if,
at one of your regular meetings?
yeah, if you could, I mean, that would be great, just in case there'd be some questions that maybe Deb, I mean, what I'd like to do is also just, you know, prior to that meeting, forward over the plan to Deb, you know, so she can have, so she can look through it, see all the work that's been done, and, you know, but when you'll be sending me like the key points, because that's gonna go out, like Mark had mentioned, you know, to whether it's the selectmen, but also to, you know, to Deb, just looking for, you know, we really need to push this out, you know, and to, you know, utilize all the social media and anything like that to, you know, to let people know what's been done and what we want to get done.
Do you also want us to invite the interim planner as well to come to the next meeting?
Yes.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Was there a reason why you pulled up that?
Well, I just wanted to show the wonderful logo that Jane has created with the mill building. We have the river and then the greenery and then the flax flowers as well. I thought it was Jane created, I was like in awe by it. And I
Wow,
thought that was
very nice,
Yeah.
very, very nice, yeah.
a potential
It needs a little
logo,
more work, a little more color.
Yeah, nice.
something we can always build on, get critiques from the community as well if they see it as something that represents, especially Merino Village, the Gateway area, stuff
Mhm.
like that. But just thought it was a cool little thing to point out here.
So, and thank you, and then just so I'm clear, so someone, Jane or Victoria, would put together that email, like we had mentioned, send it over to me, we're gonna talk about it, and then we'll forward it over to, you know, Deb LaPlaca, maybe.
Town
the
administrator.
Town administrator, things like that, okay.
The selectmen, I mean, I can't see why we wouldn't copy all boards, and then whether if they have interest in it, they'll read it. If they don't, then they don't. But
Right. Yeah, no, it's great, because I think Victoria, or maybe Jane, you had mentioned too, like, at some part of that plan also includes, you know, parking, curb, maybe like some things to do maybe with the highway department or things like that. But I also do agree with what Joanne said, that sometimes you get too many committees, you can maybe like get a little over the top. But I think that we'll just try to be very clear in our communications, because I'm sure they have all sorts of things already on their own agendas to deal with. But, okay, so that's great, thank you very much. The next meeting would be scheduled for Tuesday, August 20th. And I can also send out notice to Kerry, Salwa, and Joe to let them know. We'll make sure all the proper folks, or the people that need to be there are there. And I think that's it, so if
yeah, and the only other part of the email would be, you know, the question maybe, how do we appeal to folks in this town that would potentially be personally interested in seeing this through? I mean, there's probably a better way to say that, but, you know, make a charitable donation to support this and make it happen.
Part of it could be time. You know, we wondered who would water planters. So we don't know if there's an organization that would
Yeah.
volunteer to do that.
Oh, that's a good, very good point.
Yeah.
Or if you know
No, that
a
would be
property
great.
owner who might be willing
Yeah.
to let someone paint some butterfly wings on their wall.
And I don't think those suggestions, you know, as an example, in that email would be a bad recommendation. I think those are all good, you know, you guys have so much knowledge and and know-how due to your experience and working with towns like ours, that, I think you would know better how to say what we're trying to say, and we could make 3 or 4 attempts to it, but I think we've got one shot at this, to, really get it out there and do it correctly and appeal to the right people and say the right things. And I think if it's done right, I think you'll see a response.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, folks, next up on the agenda is a selection of a member of the committee to serve on the Master Plan Committee. Has anybody given that any thought or consideration?
So what would that entail?
No, I'm not really too sure. Does anybody, Mark, you worked on the
So I
Master Plan.
was on the master plan committee. Basically, the master plan is a steering document for the next 10 years, 5 years. I guess it could be any range of time, but I'm sure that's been identified. I believe the last one was probably 10 years by. And it just talks about, things, it's like a timeline, we're here now, we want to be here in 10 years, we want to be here in 5 years. So those bookmarks are in place, and then it's, what are the steps that we need to take to make sure that, we get to that point? It's almost like a growth plan, or
Right.
if you had at your place of employment, they said, so Ricky, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 3 months? These are the things that you do to make sure you're on track to be in that place.
Well, I generally understand the idea of a master plan. I meant more so like, would it be a monthly meeting, weekly meetings? Is it just till the plan's done, or does it continue further? I'm curious more about what the commitment to it is.
I know when I was on it, it was you build this, and there's more frequent meetings at the beginning for the construction of it, but once it's confirmed and approved, then it's just a maintenance thing. Are we on track? So maybe once a month, maybe more frequently to start out. But I would imagine it'd be up to the committee on whoever is on the committee and how frequently they'd be willing or interested in meeting. But then after that, the maintenance, it could be every quarter, 1 meeting a quarter type of thing. But I'll be honest with you, it's one of those tasks that are very similar to what we just went through here, and, a small committee to try to develop this. It could take a while to, get it to where it needs to be, but it's a very interesting process and important, certainly important part of the town. Now, we do have a master plan to look at and say, okay, and so there's a template built. So it's just a matter of changing what your goal pieces are, and then, adjusting how you got, how to get there. So I haven't seen it in quite a while, but, if nothing else, if you decided that, yeah, I'll go have a look, but it was something that didn't suit you, I'm sure this board is not gonna lynch you if you decided to leave.
I'd be interested in looking into it. That's kind of like something that I've been interested in since I got into real estate.
Good.
So I'd give it a shot.
Awesome. And is it other, committees and boards in the town take a person from each one, or is it just really volunteers right from the, who makes up the master plan committee?
Yes, so when I was on the master plan committee, it was just not from, I wasn't on any other board. It was just, that was, like I'm on economic development, I was on the master plan committee. And we just met regularly. Joe Holla, I think lives in Connecticut now, but was in Dudley. He's still around, and he's, I don't know whether he'd be interested, but I think it makes sense to have people from different boards to be on it to make up the master plan, because they're familiar with the goals of the town already, whereas, I was just coming into town, and it was like, what's Dudley all about? And, you learn very quickly. And that's why I joined, is because I wanted to understand you know, what Dudley was and what people thought of it and what people would like it to be.
Do you know, like, do they have any assistance like we just had, that we have in regards to, like, folks like, Jane and Victoria,
Yeah,
working in
those-
connection with that committee?
Those son of a guns could eat up some of those 12 hours that we need.
They just might, right?
I
Unless,
think Bill said CMRPC is helping.
oh, they are, oh, they
Or
are?
potentially helping.
Okay. Because that would be a huge one, because I wouldn't even know where, like, as a committee, if people weren't, like you said, familiar with the, goings-on already at the town, or even just where would you begin? Imagine if we were just tasked as just like,
Well,
our
I
committee.
think Mark brought up a good point. You're not starting from scratch. You already have a master plan. You're doing an update to see what things do you need to tweak more and make more relevant today than they would have been back then. So I think it's a good experience for anybody who has an interest in real estate, mechanics or government, the whole 9 yards to hear the input, because you're gonna get a variety of people, and the majority, a lot of them will be people with planning background from that planning committee are gonna
Yeah.
be more interested in it than somebody from the Board of Assessors. They're not gonna, it's a difference on it. So it's a good learning experience, and you'll learn from people usually that are smarter than yourself, and that's the best resource you ever get.
Right.
This is what these guys do too. I mean,
Yeah.
when we were on that committee, as we kind of met, we did kind of bring them in to help us with different things, but we were restricted to the number of hours. And I don't know why I remember this part, but one of us asked, so you guys could draft this whole thing for us with our input, right? And they said, yeah, for sure. And this was 15 years ago, and I think it was like $50,000 or $60,000 for them to do it. Today, it's probably more like 100 or 110 or 100 and more.
Interesting.
So it can be done like that with the right amount of input, but it's all about the money, right?
Yeah, it is.
Years ago, they put together all of our subdivision control laws under the limited hours they had to begin with.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Everything costs money, but I think it's a good experience for anybody that's involved in the community, has an interest in land, development, all of those things, to see the growth. I mean, we're involved in real estate, we're seeing more things that are changing in zoning, trying to make more use to create more housing. It all kind of comes together. So it can be a good experience for you. And if you find you're overwhelmed, you call, and you're on a board, you say, my life has changed and I need to resign and move on in life. That's it.
Okay. Now, would this be something, Ricky, if you're still interested in at least exploring it, is this something that we as a committee need to vote on in regarding to selecting somebody to serve?
Yeah, I don't think it would be bad to, to put in the notes or in the minutes that,
Okay.
Ricky had suggested he might be interested in, seeing what it's all about. And then we'd just have to try to direct him. I don't know who's leading the committee. I don't know if
don't
anyone
either.
has been identified yet. This came about, who asked us to put this? Was this a planner?
Yep, I think this was Bill who would,
I can reach out to Victoria and Jane to see if they can provide us with the name of the interim planner
Okay.
and see. I think they said she could indicate status maybe.
All right. So there's an interim planner right now that we're utilizing through CMRPC?
Yep.
Oh, I
believe so.
didn't
But
realize.
we don't have a name, do
But we
we?
don't know who it is.
No.
But that's
Okay.
what we need to
Yeah.
know who our
Okay,
mystery
okay.
person is.
Good. Yeah, so I think that's a great place to start.
What was her
Her
name?
name is Jessica. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Jess,
Jessica.
Jasifa.
She has the same email that Bill did, planner one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. That's Bill. Okay, so does a motion need to be made to select?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to accept Ricky's suggestion that he'd like to look into serving as the member from the Economic Development Committee onto the Master Plan Committee.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you, Ricky.
Right.
Really appreciate that. Next up, we would have our town planner update to provide an update of the current development activity, which unfortunately we do not. Last thing would be any open discussion, any items that any members of the committee would like to bring up.
So, has anyone heard from Jonathan?
I have not.
Not since he attended last meeting.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
He did.
Oh, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I
So
think,
that's why I
think he
missed
said he
him.
couldn't be here
Okay,
in
cool.
July.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I brought it up. I hadn't seen him a while prior to, and then I'm glad that he was here
Awesome.
last time. All right, good.
But he did express that he still wanted to, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
still part of the board. Okay, great.
Yep.
Excellent.
Anything else?
I think maybe with summer calendars, it might be a good idea just to confirm that we are having the August meeting.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I agree.
So I know we were gonna reach out to others, including Deb, but maybe just, I can send something to the group just confirming August 20th.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And then I can reach out to Jessica too.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's a great idea.
Let's include Jessica on that email to see if maybe she can attend as well.
Because for an interim, I mean, I don't know how long it takes to appoint or to hire a new town planner. I know Bill was actually, wasn't he technically part-time?
Yeah.
Even though I don't know how part-time his work was. But that could take, who knows, right? We don't know how long that could take.
Yeah, I don't know what the budget is for it. I know that he was part-time because I was on the planning board when we appointed him. And I know it was a part-time position because of the resource that we had. Now, they maybe have been able to, that was many years ago, got enough money to have him full-time, but it certainly seemed like he was here full-time.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kelsey. All right, if I don't have any other, if there's nothing else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so the Town of Dudley, Massachusetts Economic Development Committee is now ended. It is 11:28 a.m. Thank you, everybody.